Happy Wednesday. Welcome back to the Wolff Den presented by Win Again Academy. I'm Matt Wolff, founder and CEO of Ticket Time Machine. Today we welcome Chad Belding to the Wolff Den. How's it going?
It's going awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, excited to chat with you about some of my favorite things in the world. But for the people in the audience who don't know you, give us a quick introduction and let's get into it.
I was born and raised in Nevada and live currently most part of the year in Reno, Nevada, Tahoe area, and just get to travel the world. We're honored to do so. In 2008, we started a company called Banded, and it's turned into a pretty large manufacturing brand for pretty much all things hunting and lifestyle, casual gear, workout gear, but a lot on the waterfowl, duck and goose side, turkey side, getting into deer, apparel, waders, decoys, accessories, you name it. We've got almost 4,000 different products in that brand now, and that came with a national TV show through our production company, TFL Productions, called The Fowl Life, which we're humbly airing season 14 right now on the Outdoor Channel of Benelli's The Fowl Life, and getting ready to hit the road in September to film season 15. So just saying season 15 blows my mind, knowing that we started this as a dream in 2008, and a lot of our brands stuck, and we try to just talk about Mother Nature and the great outdoors and hunting and fishing and providing and gardening and living off the land. We're fired up and passionate about the lifestyle. We wouldn't want to live any other way. So ourselves, our crew, our circle, our kids, our families, we truly believe in that. So the Fowl Life it just showcases that lifestyle and how hunting is the common denominator that brings all these different walks of life together. And it's opened up a lot of doors and made for a pretty wild ride. And we're fired up to be able to keep doing it.
Yeah, so I'm not a hunter, but I know we're going to talk about some cooking stuff that you guys have gotten yourself into. But speaking of hunting, have you incorporated the Luke Bryan song "Hunting, Fishing, Loving Every Day" into your show or something? Do you know that song?
Oh yeah, very well. My friend Dallas Davidson wrote that, the Georgia Peach Pickers in Georgia, him and Red Akins and the guys. And I talked to Dallas last week because we're looking at a piece of property in Tennessee, and we were actually just talking about that song when he wrote it. And Luke's a hunter; he lives off the land. He loves hunting and fishing, and I think that's what I alluded to, that is this all these different walks of life. Once you're out in Mother Nature, you're humbled and you're honored to be there. It brings you to your knees, and you just want more and more of those sunrises and sunsets and wet dogs and ducks and geese and deer and turkeys. And I think that Dallas, his songwriting and how Luke sang that song, I wish I could get the publishing rights to play it on our show. We work with quite a few artists in Nashville and other in Texas mainly, that we do use their music, from Zach Brown to Jamie Johnson and many others. But yeah, I'd love to use that song. It was perfectly written, and it showcases our life perfectly.
Yeah, I would think they'd want to have it. I know the music licensing is a tough business, a lot of money, right? I mean, that's the obstacle. You pay enough money, you can get whatever you want on your shows, but is it worth it? It's a great song. It's exactly what you guys are doing, but is it worth? It's I don't know. It seems silly to me, but I'm not in that publishing area. So
Yeah, publishing's a weird deal, especially now with like streaming and the way that people. You remember back in the day, I think it was Lars Ulrich, the drummer for Metallica, sued Napster
yeah,
because of rights to music. And now you can get your music in so many different ways, but those songwriters and those musicians, they make money off of every play. So I get the income and the revenue stream, but I do agree with what you're saying. Is like, if it's on this show, it's just going to get more people listening to it and showing that Luke and Dallas really care about this lifestyle and they live it every day. So yeah, like I said, I'd love to use that song. It's awesome.
yeah. I talk about that with the Wolf. Then I said I don't care who you are, how popular you are, how many people know who you are. There's people in my network who've never heard of you, and so if you had that song on there, most people probably had. Hunting and fishing go very close with country, but there's got to be people who've never heard of Luke Bryan or maybe even never heard of that song. So it's like, sometimes it just makes sense to do stuff and let's take the money out of the equation. Let's just do what makes sense. But
I
okay,
agree. And if you kind of calculate it with like an anthem, like She Shook Me All Night Long, or We Will Rock You by Freddie Mercury and Queen, or like Paradise City, or, you go to a basketball game or a football game or anything, you hear those iconic anthems, AC/DC and Guns N' Roses and Queen and Zeppelin. And like, of course they're going to get big money. They're in big motion pictures. Remember when You Could Be Mine was Terminator 2's theme song with Axl Rose and GNR singing it? So I get that. But yeah, for the most part today, if these artists just said, I don't care. I don't like. I work with one of the most famous bands, in my opinion, in the country, Whiskey Myers, out of Southeast Texas. Cody Cannon and the boys, they're incredible. Whiskey Myers, they live outdoors, they hunt, they fish, but they're an unbelievable rock and roll country blues band. And Cody's of the mindset of like, I want everybody hearing my music. Put it out there. They make their money on people buying tickets that could hear it on our show, going to Red Rocks in Denver to see a show, buying a T-shirt, and that's how those bands are making their money. You got to have butts in the seat to pay the bills now on touring. The publishing is there, but radio does not mean as much as it did back in the day, in my opinion.
Yeah, and it's fun. I know we'll get back on track, but we got it. It's a good topic because as long as you're not doing it in the way that, let's say, Donald Trump did it, where they were using a song and the people didn't really agree with you and didn't want you to use it, I can't imagine why they wouldn't want you to use it, right? So if you're using it in the context of, what the song is actually about, and you're not someone or an organization that whoever wrote it is offended by, that's what I think would be the only thing, but saying, hey, let anyone use it. But those cases are so small to begin with. The question really would be for you, to get back to the hunting fishing, is how did you get into this? It's probably not a tough answer. I got to assume your family took you hunting and took you in the outdoors when you were young and you got hooked. Is that how it went?
Yeah, for the most part, I was a deer hunter and an upland hunter with my dad. And being out here in Nevada, the high desert, we're in the drought a lot. Tahoe's beautiful, but Tahoe's not a waterfowl hunting spot or destination. We do have some refuges around the state, but growing up, if you didn't have a boat and you didn't have the know-how, my dad wasn't a duck hunter. He was a deer hunter, an antelope hunter, big game and upland. So I was always in the mountains. But then when I was 26, 27 years old, I got invited on a duck hunt at this place called the Sleeper Mine, which is kind of the runoff reserve water of a gold mine. And it would flood the sagebrush. And these ducks would go in there, eat the little seeds off of these different forms of sage and different, flowers or brush that grows around the state. And in this part of the desert, it was amazing how many ducks congregated. So when I saw my first duck respond to my friend Jim's duck call, they went over our head. And he just went, "Rah, rah, rah, rah," and they spun on a dime. And I was like, oh, wow, I've never seen a deer do that. I've never seen a chucker do that, or a pheasant. I was hooked, and I started getting into the vocabulary. So what hooked me in my 20s is I quit deer hunting. I quit all the stuff that my dad had taught me, except the culinary part of it and living off the land and how to use an open fire and all the things you learn in the mountains. I started applying it to vocalizations and learning the vocabulary of the wild duck, the wild Canada goose. So I started picking that up, and that's what really launched me into this space. I think is I'd travel around the country competing in duck and goose calling contests, from the Worlds in Easton, Maryland for goose, or the World Duck Calling Championships in Stuttgart, Arkansas, every November during Thanksgiving weekend. There was big money in it. There was a huge accreditation with it, and most of all, it allowed me to meet a lot of folks, men and women in this space, and open doors and develop a network. So I go up there and compete, not knowing anything, because I'm this kid from Nevada, and get just smoked. And I was competitive. I played D1 baseball at UNLV. I love competition. I love baseball, still do. And I was getting beat weekly, like bad. But I was trying to learn and get better at it. And my consistency and my dedication to it opened a lot of doors. And I give that the credit that got me to meet the right people to open doors for me and help me get in the space. So yeah, I did not grow up as a duck hunter, but you bring up a great point, is that in this space, like a lot of spaces, and we take for granted that in these big cities, a lot of these kids, a lot of these guys and girls in their 20s, 30s, 40s, they don't even know what's going on out in the country. So mentorship is a huge part of conservation, or Ducks Unlimited, or Safari Club International, California Waterfowl, of mentorship programs that if you are interested, we'll bring you out. We have a program at UC Irvine. No, that's a lie. UC Davis in Sacramento, California. that's not really known for its conservative thoughts or hunting or anything like that. And their junior and seniors are allowed to enroll in a program called the First Time Hunter Program. And we bring them out to a place in the Butte Sink of California, and we teach them everything from shotgun handling to safety to duck calling to dog work to the cooking part of it. And there is over a 60% retention rate of those first timers coming back or getting their hunting license for year 2 and getting and falling in love with it. So if people see it done right and they're mentored the right way, you have a pretty good chance of building that confidence in them for gun safety, respect for the land, respect for the resource, compassion for the animals we pursue. So I think mentorship and mentoring programs are huge, just like you said.
How big is these competitions, and are they spreading to other areas?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be straight up. Before the internet craze, it was hard to find content of how to blow these calls the right way. So a lot of these contests were growing in popularity because these newcomers or people that were interested were able to talk to people that were proven, that knew how to do it, and they would get face-to-face contact and instruction from them. And now there's so much content out there at the drop of a dime, you can get it anywhere, YouTube or whatever platform you're on. So there was a lot of money in it. A lot of the retailers, Avery Outdoors, Green Headgear Decoys, Max Prairie Wings, you name it, they were putting money into these competitions because they were bringing an influx of people to these shows all over the East Coast, the South, the Southeast, the Mississippi Flyway, out west, all the way up into Manitoba and different provinces in Canada. And since then, with the retail has changed, our mindset of how to shop and get content and all that stuff has changed so much. They're there, but they're nowhere as popular or lucrative as they used to be. So now at 20 years old, you want to learn how to blow a duck call, you just go onto YouTube and find all the content or all the live routines that these master callers are blowing. It's all uploaded, and it's kind of like, back to the music analogy, like I'll go see a concert, but if I'm not careful, I could see that same exact concert from the city before because somebody is uploading it. And I'm like, well, Slash just did that last night in Pittsburgh. This is nothing new. It was like kind of like WWF back in the day when I was a kid. I was like, wow, Hulk Hogan just beat Genghis Khan. And then I watched it on Sunday morning and he did the same exact match in Indianapolis. Yeah. And I was just like, I was pissed off because I thought it was real. So it's kind of like that mentality that now you can get that content anywhere, and contests aren't anywhere as near as popular.
Who's your favorite wrestler
of all time? Would probably be the Ultimate Warrior.
Yeah,
I love Junkyard Dog, and I absolutely love the British Bulldogs, but I love the Ultimate Warrior.
We're gonna do a Wolff Den special where I go and grab, because we just never know where the conversation is gonna go, and I grabbed something I have for my favorite wrestler, Badass Billy Gunn.
Oh yeah, that's awesome, dude.
My dad was working in the city, and he ran like into the Ultimate Warrior. To answer Brian's question, it's real good. It is real.
It's real good. The athletic part of it and the pain part of it is, I think it's those guys are really good athletes, and they're bigger and faster and stronger like every athlete is today. But the things that I don't know if you paid attention to any of these documentaries lately, but man, the pain these guys like Goldberg and the Gravedigger, all of those guys, the Undertaker, all of them went through. What Vince McMahon did back in the day, and I know there's some ups, things going on there, but I love the WWF, which became the WWE later on, and all the wrestling organizations around it.
How great is what The Rock has made himself? It's incredible to think, because he was a good wrestler, right? I mean, he was entertaining, but man, he's so much bigger outside of that world, and it's just crazy.
It's like he says, he's the hardest worker in the room. I think work ethic, timing is a lot of it. I will never say that The Rock can act like Al Pacino. I will never say that, but he is so approachable. He's just a man's man. Like I was watching this video the other day of he's dropping F-bombs watching a UFC fight. And I'm like, man, that dude was just in a Disney movie, right? So like you get all parts of who Dwayne Johnson is, from his weightlifting to his cheat meals to the motivation, the Under Armour stuff he does. I mean, you name it. The guy's pushing tequila or shoes or a new movie with Kevin Hart. And it's amazing that the acting that he learned as a wrestler, and obviously he had great genetics. His dad was built. His dad was a wrestler. And then what he did with Stone Cold and that entire legacy and time period of the WWE and what he turned it into now, I'm just like, he deserves every bit of the success that he's experiencing.
I thought he was great in the movie Walking Tall. I really love that movie.
I love that movie.
He was pretty good with Kevin Hart and Central Intelligence. I thought that he's done some movies I'd be like, but I don't think he's a bad actor. But I agree with you. I don't know that we're gonna say he's the greatest actor.
Well, okay. Well, what about like Sandler was doing like 25 or 30 million a movie, you know, and he's still like that. The new basketball movie Hustle on Netflix is awesome. Sandler's, to me, is, and I know this word gets thrown around, but from his days before Saturday Night Live and his CDs and DVDs he was putting out, you know, like What the Hell Happened to Me and the little skits like The Goat or My Car, and all of those were genius. And then his characters were genius. And then he goes too far sometimes, but for the most part, like Big Daddy or The Longest Yard or The Waterboy, there's good stories in them. There's good human spirit, and the soul comes out in them. And they're funny. And he's always got like Burt Reynolds and Goldberg and all these wrestlers and Dan Patrick and these, you know, just current event type of situations, like one of his lines in The Goat. He was just awesome. He wasn't Al Pacino, you know what I'm saying? But he was relative, you know, and he stays that way for a long time.
And I like that he brings his friends in all his movies.
Great.
All the movies. I'm always looking to see, like, when is this guy going to show up? And
they're like his high school buddies, right?
Yeah.
That's so cool. Like the things that people like Rob Schneider have said about him of after they made Grown Ups, and how Chris Rock got a knock on the door and Rob Schneider all at the same time. And they all had like new Lamborghinis or Maseratis or something out in there that Adam bought them all. And obviously he has money, but he spreads that to all of his friends. And he just seems like a quality human being. I'd love to hang out with that dude.
Yeah, he'd be fun. Well, we're going to talk about that in a little bit later too. I want to try something. You talk about duck calls, and I'm going to try and show you. Let's see this.
I have some sitting here.
Well, I was going to see if we can do it this way, which probably not. I don't want to waste too much time on this. Where exactly was it? Here. This one. Can you see the screen?
That's the funniest movie ever made in the history of comedies. Wedding Crashers. I don't even know what a quail looks like.
And he shoots him. Is that the most? Let me stop sharing my screen.
Christopher Walken's look on his face.
Right, he's so
Bradley Cooper he should have won the Academy Award for that role right there.
He was great in that too.
God, he was good.
Is that like the most famous pop culture duck, or or maybe the Dick Cheney hunting and the shot in the face?
I would say that scene was funny. That movie was. I honestly think from A to Z, beginning to end, with Vince Vaughn and Owen, what they did in that movie. I don't know if Fletch or Caddyshack or the originals live up to it. I know that like Step Brothers is funny. I know that what's the one with Noah? What about the two kids they go into the party and they got to get beer for the girls? Superbad. God, I can't believe it. Superbad's hilarious. But to answer your question, I think the most popular duck hunting of all time in pop culture is Duck Dynasty. I think what the Robertson family did in Louisiana by taking their brand of duck calls that Phil started in his truck in 1972. He was the starting quarterback at La Tech over Terry Bradshaw. Then he goes into a DVD series where he gets real famous called The Duckmen of Louisiana. Then they work with Benelli, our title sponsor, Benelli Shotguns, on Benelli's The Duck Commander on the Outdoor Channel. And then I remember, I'm friends with those guys, and I remember when Willie showed me the pilot episode and the intro, the original intro before Sharp Dressed Man and ZZ Top and the Rolls Royce or the Bentley or whatever it was. He showed me the pilot episode when they signed with A&E. And so I think what they did with Duck Dynasty and their family and Cy and every single character in there, from Jason to Willie to Phil, all of them, Miss K. I'd say that pop culture that has been talked about by Bill Burr. It's been talked about by Andrew Dice Clay. It's been talked about by comedians and athletes and Dick Vitale. I mean, they get referred to a lot, Duck Dynasty. So I would say that in pop culture was the most popular.
Yeah, and then the start of it all, Duck Hunt on Nintendo.
Oh gosh,
great game.
I wore a Duck Hunt shirt yesterday.
Yeah, could have worn that today.
I know.
Let's talk about Duck Dynasty for a minute. I don't watch the show. Obviously, I know about the controversy and how it ended. And is there a misconception about hunting being like a redneck type of thing, and that type of like a lot of the people who are in that world feel maybe similar to some of those feelings that were mentioned? And is that a stereotype? Is there some truth to it? What's your feeling?
I think that the word redneck, I mean, I think that, you hear stuff like it's going to get Western cowboy up, the cowboy way out west here. There's a ton of hunters in the Western United States, Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, Nevada, like Idaho. It's amazing out here. California's got the third highest amount of hunters in the field every year. And California's not known for that. They're known for the Golden Gate Bridge and Hollywood and Beverly Hills and weird politics a lot of the time. So if you think about that concept, and then you go down south and you got your rednecks down there. Yeah, hunting's huge in the south because it's a way of life, because the animals are so plentiful down. Florida is not known for hunting. It's known for Disney World and the beaches of Fort Lauderdale and Boca Raton and South Beach, Miami. It's unbelievable for alligators, turkeys, deer, ducks, fishing. It's amazing sportsman's paradise. So I think that hunting is a iconic lifestyle that's been around since the beginning of time. People have been feeding this type of meat to their families forever and living off the land. So I think it is a stereotype, but again, I love being in Louisiana with Cajuns that talk that way and hearing them go, let's get the bowl of gumbo going. Hey, and go over there and stir that gumbo and get the hearts out of and gizzards out of those ducks, and let's do this. And then you go to Alabama and it's a completely different. Let's go fry some fish. And then you're over in Arkansas and you're sitting there, making smothered deer steak with Billy Bogey, and they don't talk anywhere like they talk in Louisiana, but they live off the land and they're simple. It's a simple lifestyle. So yeah, I think Phil Robertson, barefooted, catching an alligator in his backyard, I've been to that house. I've been hunting with him. That's exactly how they live. So I don't think it's a stereotype. I don't think that the people that hunt necessarily feel the exact way that Phil feels about anything. They might have some similarities, but as far as hunting goes and cooking and taking pride in it and respecting the animal, yeah, I think that rednecks, Westerns, cowboys, hunters in Maine, and lobster fishermen or crab fishermen on the Deadliest Catch, they just love what they do, and I think that it's their lifestyle.
Yeah, and the country music scene is embracing. I mean, you got Chris Jansen, Redneck Life, and Hardy, Rednecker, and there's Redneck Woman. I forget her name, but so they embrace that lifestyle, and it's one of those things that you can use it as a negative term if you want, but they embrace it, and they're proud to be live that type of lifestyle, which is great. I mean, I think it's good. I just always was curious about the stereotypes on the people that are the hunters. I've never hunted before in my life. I do like to fish, but I only like to fish if I can eat what I catch. And so I want to talk about that for a minute with the hunting and fishing, the difference between hunting as like a sport almost and hunting for eating, and the people who hunt, maybe your opinion on the people who hunt like stuff they probably shouldn't hunt and they post those trophy pictures.
Well, there's a couple different things. I believe in hunting as a whole. If it's legal and you do it with ethical and you have respect for that animal and compassion, then, people watch, let's take an elephant, for example. Well, what is the true story behind the elephant management practice? Are we all qualified or educated enough to say, well, we shouldn't kill elephants? Well, elephants kill a lot of human beings in those countries in Africa. So there's a lot of study and data that go into management, just like in California. They don't want you killing mountain lions anymore. Well, why not? You got to manage them or they're going to get disease and they're all going to die off. So there's a mentality of when you start to vote with your heart and your emotions, because Bambi was a real thing, Bambi wasn't a real thing. It was Walt Disney. Okay. Deer management is everything. Hall and Oates, Daryl Hall said, I wish every deer in New York would be exterminated. They said, why? Because they keep eating my trees and my shrubs and they keep going through my windshield and my aunt's car. Okay. Well, management. Hunters are the ones that are going to go in and manage that population. If you want all the deer dead, then let them get disease, and then you're never going to see a beautiful deer in New York, which they are beautiful animals. So, yeah, as far as the trophy pictures, I'm all about memories and taxidermy as long as it's done tactfully. I don't want blood everywhere. I don't want people saying F a coyote and just throwing a coyote in the back of the truck because they killed or snared or trapped a coyote. No, you have the utmost respect for that animal. We built our houses and our dwellings and our industrial system and our commercial system in the coyote's home. We went into their territory where they've been living for hundreds of years and we built on their land. So we're not going to sit back and go, let's get rid of all the coyotes. No, you got to manage them, because if you don't, it's going to hurt them in the long run. They're going to develop disease. They're going to develop mange. So yes, first and foremost, I'm a huge proponent of eat what you kill, eat what you catch. But I also love the idea of being able to introduce somebody to sports fishing and understanding the great marlin or the great swordfish or the, I love to eat swordfish, but the any of the billfish that you can't eat or keep, I go down and do it. And I love it. The adrenaline, they don't get hurt. And it's the money that those fishermen are putting in to conservation and stamps and licenses that are going to oceanography and research that are helping these animals survive and thrive more, in my opinion. So yeah, there's a few different ways to look at it, but go ahead. You were going to say something?
Yeah. What percentage of people are doing it the right way versus the wrong way?
I think that, in my travels, and I obviously don't talk to every hunter in the world, but every hunter every one of them that I hunt with, I don't know how to put a number on it, bud, but I think that in America, the continental United States, I think probably 80 to 90% of hunters are pursuing animals and then they eat them. Now, I'm not saying that they go out every day to hunt for food because they're going to eat it that night. But through messaging and showcasing the lifestyle the right way, and with today's ability to get messaging out there with the product we have now, it's you can get a freezer, you can get a vacuum sealer, you can get a grinder, you can get so creative with this food. When the pandemic hit and people couldn't get beef at the stores, I was giving away wild turkey breast and duck breast and all of these different animals and showing people. They'd be like, "What is this?" I'd be like, "That's deer backstrap." "Where'd you get the deer?" "Oh, we killed that in Idaho." "How'd you kill it?" "Well, we honed our skill set to be able to do this." Well, isn't that deer suffer when you kill it? No, he lives in God's country. He's living his best life every day. He's not being shot full of hormones and antibiotics or steroids or anything. He's living his best life every day. And then he's not going to a slaughterhouse and going on a big diesel like all of the hamburgers you eat at Wendy's do. He goes one bullet, he's dead, and he's feeding a family for the next year. And I think that that's a pretty worthy way of living. And then we're also doing conservation and science and research to make sure that his kids are living their best life for the next 10, 15 years. So there's all types of ways to talk about conservation and living off the land. But yes, I would say that a large amount of the hunters in America are eating what they harvest.
But I was also meant like how much are they just killing and not caring what happens, and that's what I meant. Like not necessarily eating, but are there a lot of people who are treating these animals poorly, or is it not? It's just a lot more are doing it the right way.
I think it's the exact opposite. I think the heart of a hunter and the compassion that we show. Now, look, if I see it being done the wrong way, I talk up on it. Like I said, I've seen videos because people think it's okay to kill a bunch of snow geese and then just throw them around like cordwood. No, that animal gave up their life for you. Like this is not something that we are guaranteed forever. It is a privilege to hunt, but we also do have the right to hunt. But it's not written into our declaration. It's written in the Bible that these animals are for our food. But I'm not trying to talk about religion. I'm just simply saying that if these hunters showcase this life in the wrong way, the hunters that believe in it will come down on them and say, look, we got to do this the right way. Those animals don't deserve that. So yeah, there's a huge movement to fly this flag the right way and showcase that how special this lifestyle is.
Yeah, I'm a meat eater, so probably my thoughts are going to be hypocritical, but I don't really think there's no good way to handle it, but there's the right way, and it's the best of the worst. I mean, it's hard to argue that the animal would be better off not alive than alive, but I do understand what you're saying. There's a need for it. We do it right, and if we're going to do it, let's do it right.
Well, let's just ask this question real quick. How would a white-tailed deer or a mule deer, let's say a mule deer in Montana, how would that deer die if a hunter doesn't let it grow, put money into conservation, putting more animals? If the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation wasn't doing what they do, and they're the National Wild Turkey Federation, you wouldn't see the wild animals you're seeing. Ducks Unlimited, the Atlantic Flyway, Eastern Shore, Canada goose population starting to thrive again because of conservation. But my question would be, how would that animal die if it wasn't for hunting? It would get strangled with a mouth around its throat by a mountain lion. It would get eaten by a pack of wolves. A bad winter would set in and cripple that deer to where he's just starving to death. A drought would set in where there's not enough hydration to where he would die of thirst. So if you think about the suffering that goes on in Mother Nature that you don't see, I understand survival of the fittest. And that mountain lion is going to kill. But here's a funny fact about mountain lions, that females kill way more than the males. And they'll kill a deer a day if they can, because they don't eat leftovers. They'll eat the fresh meat, and then they'll go kill another one the next day. So there's a lot of things that go into a bullet going through the heart of an animal that from a qualified, skilled hunter, and then the butchering and the processing and the feeding of that food and putting that on a table. So that's why I hunt. I love to eat it, and I love to talk about it. So, there's two sides of every story, but I truly believe that animal is living its best life in God's country and dying very ethically.
Yeah, I think we could all agree there's a better way to end a life, and not and a right way to do it, and that's what there's people do wrong fishing. There's people who do that stuff poorly in all aspects of our life. So it's kind of weird. It's hard. You want to call it the people who are doing bad behavior for everything. With the hunting for food, what is something that people should be eating more of that's not mainstream?
Oh, more of. I think that, there's so many benefits of high protein, leaner, less fat. You take wild bison compared to a domestic steer. There's no doubt that a ribeye tastes unreal because it's fatty, right? But if you really want an ultimate protein diet, I mean, you could look at halibuts, you could look at walleyes, you could look at salmons and all of the fishes that we could catch just in the continental United States, let alone the oceans. And then on top of that, I think the culinary flair of waterfowl, if you do ducks right with the skin on, like the French have been mastering for years, it's an amazing form of protein and great tasting food. If I had to pick one out of every single thing that I would tell people, try to get your hands on this if you know somebody that hunts, is the speckled belly goose, or it's also called the white front goose. They inhabit all over. Obviously, they come from the north in their migratory routes, but Louisiana, Arkansas, and California, and parts of Texas are the top destinations to get them. And then also right now, a big movement is the sandhill crane, because the population is very high. The management practices have been set forth, and they're an amazing form of protein and great tasting meat. So again, I'm a waterfowl hunter. You take a white-tailed deer out of a cornfield in Kansas and give me the back straps and the tenderloin, I'll create magic with it. So any wild game, deer, moose, elk backstrap is a lot of people's favorite. So let's just say this. To answer your question in a nutshell, I would say if I had one to give everybody that would be more plentiful than speckled belly goose, would be the Rocky Mountain elk, the backstrap off of Rocky Mountain elk.
I love Chinese duck. The way they make it. It's my favorite to
Yeah,
have.
Peking duck can be awesome, but duck's something that gets a bad rap because people overcook it in a heartbeat. It's full of oils because they got to have those oils in their skin and their fat to survive their long flight patterns on their migratory. These animals are flying thousands of miles at an altitude that's really cold, so they got to stay warm. So you could dry it out real fast. If you cook it over 130 degrees internal temp, which would be considered medium rare, anywhere to 129 to 133, you want to take it off that grill at 110 and have a flash, something real hot, a skillet or a flat iron going at 500 degrees. Put a little really natural olive oil on there, like Napa Valley olive oil, my favorite. And you put that duck breast skin down and you crisp that skin up, but you also have taken it off your smoker or your grill at a low enough temperature to where it's not going to go over that medium rare mark, you take it off at 125 at that hot flat iron, and you let it sit for 10 minutes until it reaches 130 by itself. It'll be the best best bite of meat you'll ever have. That crispy skin, speckle belly goose or mallard duck, it's an incredible form of protein.
Are you a smoker guy? I have a Green Mountain here that I've been starting to ramp up my cooking with.
I've been with Traeger for 8 years. I'm a huge smoker. I don't like a lot of smoke on my meat, but I believe in smoking to start the cooking process because it's so flavorful with all of the different forms of wood out there. So yes, smoking to like I even do all my burgers we have a beef company called American Almond Beef that we raise all of our own steer, and we provide high quality steaks and briskets, and hamburger is my favorite that we do, the American Almond Beef burger. But I form it with our Provider rub, the crosshairs, into a meatball. I smoke it on my Traeger grill top rack until it reaches about 110 degrees. I take it off and I have 700 degrees going over on a flat iron, a little bit of olive oil. I use a meat press to smash burger style it. And then when it comes off at 150 degrees, I let it sit for a second. You put the cheese on it, let it melt a little bit, put it on the bun, no condiments needed. And that smoke added with that olive oil and that smash burger flash fry, best burger you could ever eat. Best, I promise you on my life, you can't make a better burger. I've challenged people. Put all the onions on it, put all the tomatoes you want. Just eat this with no ketchup, no relish, no mustard, no mayo, and just tell me what you think. And they're just like, we just did 600 of them for Big R in Seattle last week. 2 weeks ago, we did 600 of these smash style sliders for a customer, Dickies Workwear, and a Traeger event up there. And people are like, what is this? What are you doing? And I'm just like, it's the smoke from that Traeger mixed with that olive oil on a smash burger style. And they're like, I'm doing every burger for the rest of my life just like this. So there's something to be said in that. I mean, Smash Burger's been doing it, but they're not smoking those burgers before they smash them on their high heat.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about Provider Life and some of the ventures that you're doing now on top of the show that you have. What is it? How did it come about? You're partnered with another Chad, correct?
Chad Money Mendes, UFC bad, you know what, and just won his first bare knuckle boxing match in Hollywood, Florida, with a 4th round knockout. But look up Chad Money Mendes; he's some of the most exciting matches in WEC and UFC history. But yeah, man, I trademarked this name, the Provider, which I couldn't believe we got. But that's all we do. I mean, that's my dad always told me, you're put on this earth to work and provide. Everybody's like, you don't need money. I get that. But if you don't have money and you don't work hard, it's hard to provide for your family. And I don't want that pressure and stress. So living off the land and honing your skill set to garden or forage or pickle or brine or hunt or fish, and then being able to take that back and becoming a butcher and a processor, and being able to mix different fats of pork or duck fat with your different meats to make burger or sausage or pepperonis or kielbasa, whatever. The Provider was brought with a mentality of like, I want people to relish in living off the land, becoming a backyard aficionado. I don't care if you don't hunt. If you raise your own chickens or your lambs or your pigs or your beef, learn how to make your friends and family go, wow. So my first goal was dry rubs. And I worked with a good friend, Troy Link, who owns Jack Link's Jerky with his dad, Jack. But Troy helped me with seasoning, and he got me started in the dry rubs game of flavor profiles, and he introduced me to some amazing mixologists. And I went 10 and a half months back and forth where I'd be like, hey, my dad used to cook this deer steak, and he would take a little bit of flour, some black pepper, some green onion, and some raw garlic, and he would do this, and then he would put it over high heat. And they're like, so I said, mix those flavors for me. So they'd send me back the first one. I put it on deer steak. I'd be like, it's not quite there. At the same time, I was doing ducks and salmon and halibut and all these different fishes. And then we have the dragon rub for our Asian dishes like duck fried rice and our chow mains. We have a Mexican dish called Sonora that we put that dry rub on tacos or enchiladas, whatever. And it's amazing. So we went back and forth, and we finally got all the flavor profiles dead on. And they work. They're awesome. They're at retail everywhere now. We have a lot of belief and passion in the project. And then our next goal was to create a cookbook. So we sold this idea around to Simon & Schuster and all these different publishers. And through Chad Mendes' agent and a lot of our lawyers, we attracted Ben Bella Books out of Dallas, and they produced the Provider Cookbook that released November of 2021. It's selling all over, online, Amazon, all your Barnes and Nobles and Borders everywhere. Plus at the providerlife.com, it's 264 pages, 80 recipes, even a couple Jack Daniels cocktail recipes in there that we've come up with. Some of them with smoked Jack Daniels and different smoking profiles off the Traeger grill. And then it's high. We did all the photography ourselves. We wrote the book ourselves, and we got tips and tactics in there. We have hints of how do you take it from the field to the table? How do you get it ready for the freezer? How do you get it on ice? How do you duck call? How do you stay in shape? A fitness program, because Chad Mendes is built like a Greek god. So his fitness tips are in there, because we want to hunt until we're in our 90s. And we want to stay in shape and healthy. And my dad died of a massive heart attack at 54 years old in 2006. And we want to stay healthy. We want to promote a healthy, living off the land lifestyle. So the Provider is just that. Hone your skill set. No matter if you're a hunter, a fisher, gardener, whatever it is, be passionate about it. Be ethical about it. Have compassion for those animals. And then be the best you can be on that grill in the backyard. And when I go in the grill, if I showed you my backyard, we have 15 Traegers here. So it's not a joke to us. We're always experimenting. We're always throwing down every day, and people are coming in the backyard, and we're constantly serving wild game or our beef or whatever. So being a provider, it's our goal in life, and the provider mentality is what we want to showcase.
I was just in Vegas. I got to take a trip over next time.
Anytime, bro.
I'll be there in probably December and January. I'm a big rub guy. I don't like sauces.
I don't like marinades or sauce. I do a little bit of sauces or glazes, but very rarely, mainly ribs, but I'm mainly a dry rib and a dry chicken. I want you to come up here and just have some chicken wings with us and just be like, I love these rubs. But after we'll talk off record, and I'll get your address and send you some of the rubs for you to try.
Oh, perfect. You probably have a much harder time at this. There's certain things that I don't order out at restaurants because I can do it better myself, I think, right?
It's so awesome to hear that.
Where do you eat if you're eating out?
We don't. If we eat out, it's at our favorite sushi bar. I'm a huge sushi nut, and I can't. There's two things that I can't get right in my life: sticky rice. I can't figure it out. I mean, I could cook a 10-course meal. I think pretty good style, family style meal, Italian or Basque or whatever. I'm doing Brazilian meals now, and I'm trying to master them with wild game meats. I cannot master sticky rice, and I cannot master the broth of a good pho. And if pho is my favorite Vietnamese dish, I could eat. I love tendon. I love rare steak. I love duck in it. I mean, we're putting raw strips of duck and letting it cook on its own in there. I can't master the taste of the broth. So if I go out to eat, it's for a great bowl of pho or it's for great sushi. But it's so funny you say that, because just the other night we're eating this steak at this newly acclaimed open restaurant that they're going to be known for this ribeye. And my girlfriend Anna looked at me and goes, "This does not even compare to yours. Yeah. It doesn't even compare to what you're doing." So I feel you, man. It's like, it's hard for me to go to any steak restaurant. Jeff Ruby's in Nashville has a great steak. Several of them do. But even at those high-end ones, I'm like, I like mine better. I don't need to spend $80 on your bone-in tomahawk ribeye. I'm going to do one at the house. I might do Wagyu. I might do one out of one of our American almond beef steers. But I promise you that it's going to be cooked perfect with that char, that bark on it, that 130-degree internal temp for medium rare, and just every bite is just going to, be awesome.
Yeah. I can confirm sushi. I had friends and we've tried it. It's impossible to get the rice correct. I'm a ramen guy. We put some pork belly in my ramen with an egg, but I like the 20-cent pack ramen better than, and I get out in restaurants. So it's being able to cook is
so awesome.
Yeah, it's not even that hard. It's just trial and error, right? Cooking is baking. You want to do something hard, try and bake, because if you have an extra strand of salt or sugar or flour, the whole thing could go. But if you do something wrong in cooking, you figure out maybe it's a little too salty, maybe it's not done. You can always fix it the next time, and it's probably edible.
Yeah, and I blame my non-baking skills on. I'm not keto, but I'm in my 40s, so I try to limit my sugars and my starches. It just makes it easier for the way I feel. But I'm also human, so I like a good lasagna once in a while, and I love pho with rice noodles once in a while. So but that's my excuse, man. I'm like, I would like, I watched John Favreau on his show, the chef show that came off of his movie, The Chef. His chef show is awesome with Chef Chow on Netflix. I watched there. I hope they come out in the new season, but his sourdough bread episode, I'm just like, God, it's so difficult. That's so hard what they're doing. They're making it look easy, but it took them a few takes to get it dead on. But I agree with you, man. Baking is, I want to be kind of like Buddy, the cake boss, and master that one day and do the fondant and that cake, but I have no clue how to bake. No clue.
What is the best cooking show that people can watch?
I love the Chef Show if you have Netflix. I'm not a huge Netflixer. I don't do a lot of TV, but I'm a huge fan of that movie he made with Dustin Hoffman and the whole culture behind that movie with the Cuban and all that. And then he's just so passionate about food. The first episode, he's like with Wolfgang Puck learning how to make an omelet, and Wolfgang's dropping F-bombs because John Favreau can't get an omelet right. Took him a lot of times. Took him like 3 years to master the Wolfgang omelet style. So it tells you the expertise in some of this culinary art. I love that. I'm a huge fan of Guy. I love his attitude. I love his passion. I love his respect for everybody he visits on diners, drive-ins, and dives, or whatever it's called. I love that show. And the recipes are always very unorthodox, and they look great. So, yeah, those are the two I watch just because I love Guy Fieri and what he stands for. He also is a UNLV guy like me in Vegas. And then I love John Favreau's show, The Chef Show.
I was just at the Thomas and Mack Center watching NBA Summer League. It was my first time at the Mack Center, and they had a huge statue of Tark. It was pretty cool to see.
The Talbiter, Tarkanian. I was at UNLV in 93, 94, 95, 94, 95, 96. So I was there with I wasn't there with Larry Johnson, Stacey Ogman, Anderson Hunt, Greg Anthony, George Ackles. But I was there with J.R. Ryder. He was there playing, and he. One day I was so confused because he drove up in a brand new, and I mean brand new, purple Jaguar. I'm like, dude, I don't get this on my baseball scholarship.
No.
How in the freaking? I don't know what Tark was doing, but but I got to go to the old gym and watch Larry Johnson and Ogman and those guys. They'd come back and play, and man, I was a huge fan of that 89-90 against Duke and Christian Laettner and all that. That was an awesome time in NCAA.
Yeah, and now you can give them whatever car you want, and nobody cares. It's like, all right, what cars can we get them? That's for a whole nother episode.
Yeah, man, I was down there playing baseball, and I had a contact for. I'm a huge boxing. I love the sweet science of boxing, and I could show you my ticket stubs and all the Tyson fights, and that was kind of at the end of Tyson's career when I was in Vegas. But it was Riddick Bowe and Evander Holyfield when the Fan Man came into Caesar's Palace, in the outdoor arena there and landed in the ropes, and they thought that he hit Riddick Bowe's wife, so his corners started beating the heck out of him. And I was at a lot of big. I was there at George Foreman when he knocked out Michael Moore for the title at the MGM. So yeah, I was getting some free tickets during my playing days.
My friend Brent, who's usually on these shows, huge boxing fan, but also one of the best fishermen I know. He took me out. We caught some mutton snapper, and it was so good.
That's
good.
Awesome. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. For hunting, and this might get, I like to talk about the tough topics. Two things. How soon can you bring someone hunting? How young? And I want to hear your opinion on the gun issue and how hunting is brought into it. And how do you feel about that? Because I'm going to assume you're not out there with an automatic weapon as you're hunting these animals.
I'm a huge gun proponent. I own every type of weapon that you can imagine. I'm not going to say the numbers, but it's a lot, and not one of them have ever been involved in anything that would ever harm a person. We promote gun safety, knife safety, responsibility. So when you start talking about the Second Amendment, the NRA, and the right to own a gun, I mean, I won't ever back down from anybody telling me that it's okay for Johnny Depp to make a movie called The Gunman and then tell me that I can't have a gun after he just mopped up 50 people. Or Kevin Costner, who's not very conservative anymore, but he's in the #1 movie in the show in the world with Yellowstone, and they killed 100 people an episode. Okay, so Jason Bateman having all these dudes get waxed in the Ozark and then saying, well, we got to have gun control, or Amy Schumer getting up on stage and she's not that funny, she's not even that talented, but she has private security guards that protect her with guns, but then she tells me that the Second Amendment needs to be abolished. It's nonsense. So protect my family with guns. I provide for my family with firearms. We're very responsible for them. Do I believe in background checks? Yes, I do. But I also have my feelings of how these mass shootings are happening and how they're getting these guns. They're not going to a retailer and filling out a background check and paying $4,500 for the ARs that are being used in these shootings. They're not. So there's something going on with that. But to have the attitude of we're going to come and take your guns, it's not going to. That won't go over very well. You're not
Yeah.
going. That won't go over very well. So as it applies to hunting, I think that responsibility and mentorship, like we touched on before, is everything. And I think that taking responsibility for that gun, not being scared of that firearm, handgun, muzzle loader, shotgun, rifle, AR-15, having the intelligence and the know-how behind it, whether you're plinking, whether you're target shooting, whether you're hunting, and taking the responsibility of aiming it at an animal and pulling the trigger. You can't just go out and do it. It takes years to become proficient with it. So as I introduce kids and new hunters, men and women, boys and girls, nieces, nephews, sons, daughters, to this lifestyle, I try to pick the right day, the right weather, the right temperature, the right conditions. No, I don't want to scare them. I don't want to put them in harm's way. I want the boat ride to be comfortable. I want the gun to fit them, the size or the length of the stock and the forearm. I don't want them to get beat up on their first or second or 10th experience. I want them to gain confidence, have a smile on their face, and keep the fun in it. I don't want to be that parent that thinks I have the best kid in the world at the Little League game and that he's going to be the next, the next Mike Trout or the next Barry Bonds. No, he's not. Just chill out and leave the umpire alone, leave the coach alone, and let the fun stay in the game for right now. So I want hunting to be fun, and I want it to be safe. And then I want to educate them on why we're doing what we're doing and adding in the dog, the boat ride, the sunset, Mother Nature, the cooking.
It's an experience.
It's a lifestyle. And then when they taste that meat, my daughter, if I brought her in here right now, Alyssa would tell you, I want Uncle Dave or my dad's teriyaki duck. I want Mama Dale's duck for dinner instead of a pizza. Does she eat pizza? Heck yeah. She's a kid, but she loves eating wild game. So she knows that when we're hunting, we're providing. And she knows that if we are predator hunting, we're providing management for the populations. So there's a lot of that goes into it. But yes, I do believe in gun safety. I believe in responsibility as a gun owner, but in no way am I going to ever bow down to people telling me you should not have a gun.
I get that, but when we talk about an automatic, I hear the hunting thing. No one's bringing an AR rifle to hunt ducks, and that's not a humane way.
That's illegal. That's illegal, but you can use ARs on other animals.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've shot a lot of ARs, and I've never. I mean, obviously, there's certain situations to where there's a lot more that goes into ARs and where your location is and where you're shooting and all of the rules that go into the skyline and your backdrop and who's there and traffic and whatever, like in our state, 80% of the state is BLM owned. It's public property to where you can go out in four-wheel or UTV or side-by-side or whatever you do and shoot guns, target practice. So yeah, there's responsibility that comes with it. But I would out of every hunter that I know, and I know a lot of them, there's never been any kind of attitude about I'm going to take my automatic or my semi-automatic weapon out and do something that's detrimental to people. It's a responsibility and an education thing, but it's our right to bear arms. And I think that if people understood why I have guns in my house to protect my family, then that's okay. It's okay to go hunting with a gun as long as you're responsible with it. It's all about education. And I think the other thing that I would say on that, without getting down a rabbit hole, is mental health plays a huge role in this. And I think that defining that and noticing it and figuring it out before something goes down, I think that can be a big argument and a big discussion point to do. That there's instances that we could have done a better job before something else happened in the history of our gun violence.
Yeah, I champion for mental health with an organization called Same Here, and
so do I.
Mental health is a huge issue. The problem with that is, and my wife watches a ton of court TV. Anyone who does any type of violent act like that has some sort of mental health issue, whether they're mentally ill or. So it's always weird to me to understand, like, someone's on trial. Yes, you killed 17 people. You have a mental health problem. You're not mentally well. It doesn't matter how you did it. So that's the only issue I have with the anyone who does something that's that violent like that. But mental health is a huge problem in the country and needs to be addressed. I was walking down Vegas and saw probably a dozen people who are just not only just homeless, but you can tell they're not all there. They need help. And I don't think they're going to do any harm to anyone but themselves, possibly. But
But
you never.
what about the homeless guy that just killed the NASCAR driver over money, stabbed him to death in California a couple days ago?
Maybe
Like,
I didn't hear that.
yeah, you could look it up. Like, it just happened. Stabbed him to death. An innocent victim of
Terrible.
mental health and homelessness is here. Here's the bottom line: our cities are dangerous right now. There's a problem. I won't go to our AAA stadium, affiliate of the Arizona Diamondbacks. Used to have season tickets. It's too dangerous down there now. Now some people be like, well, nothing's going to happen to you. How do you know? I can't bring my pistol. I can't use my concealed weapons permit. I can't bring a gun into the stadium to protect myself if something did happen. But, and I understand that, that's their prerogative. But I'm choosing not to pay my money to go there anymore because of the danger around the stadium. So until it gets cleaned up and managed, there's not going to be as much revenue down there because people do not feel comfortable. I think that is a big problem in a lot of cities. Go to California, go to San Francisco right now. Like, I will not walk around Bay Street where I used to eat at Caesar's Italian food all the time. I won't walk around there anymore. It's just dangerous. Things are changing, and there needs to be changes made to our mental health program and our homeless situation and all of that, because our cities, in my opinion, are very dangerous right now.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is, I don't feel unsafe, but I understand that at any moment I could be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And so I kind of don't. My sister was like, don't go, tell me not to go on the subway in New York City. I'm like, when I'm with her, yeah, okay, I'll do that. But it's hard to just really not live your life and just say, for me, if it's the time, it's the time. I'd be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm going to live my life. But I understand that.
But
So
do you believe in being prepared?
I don't carry a gun, and I wouldn't personally, no.
Yeah. See, so my deal is just being prepared for it because it's happening more and more, and I don't brandish it, but I really think that there's something to be said about being prepared and being able to stop something before it starts. Because in all the years I've had my concealed weapon and I don't know anybody, and I know a lot of people that have theirs, we've never used it. But it's about that one time that you're like, oh wow, I got to use it now. Something just went down, and I want to be prepared for that. I'm not going to ever just be like, oh, I got this, you better watch out. That kind of attitude. It's
Yeah, but
more so.
how long? Think about how long you said it takes someone to be an expert. You, I would trust. 99% of the people, I wouldn't.
If you came to the course, if you're saying you don't have any gun experience, you came to our course and you trained with us for 3 days, you would be, oh wow, I love this holster. I can do this with it now. And that one time that I'm going to need it, I'm going to be prepared because I'm not. You dial 911 when your house gets broken into. The average is over 10 minutes for the cops to get there. It's average of me under 2 seconds to put my fingerprint on my safe and my lockbox and be ready. And if somebody's going to have the cojones to break into somebody's house and put them in harm's way, I'm going to be prepared to make sure that they don't get what they want out of it.
I know a lot of people that feel that way, and it's your family. I think you should do whatever you can to protect your family to the extent that you feel comfortable and to the extent that you're prepared and safe and able to do it. I just think there's too many people who aren't and are not as worried about the safety and all of that. And I'm not saying it's rampant, like it's a huge number, but it's more than it needs to be, because you always see the people who are. I just would be afraid that there'd be an accident. I don't know. It's just me personally, but I don't think that you shouldn't be able to have guns.
No, I
just
get
want
that.
us to be able to have guns.
And I'm telling you, I'm telling you that I think that you would be surprised how quick you caught on and how comfortable your comfort level would be there in a flash, based on the instruction today. There are so many qualified instructors now that can get you go. Because I mean, think about, you're in a deep sleep and your alarm goes off and something goes on. It's going down in your house. Windows broke. Your daughter's on the other side of the house sleeping. Something's up. You still have to get your breathing, your heart rate right, your adrenaline's going. It's dark. Do you know how to use a flashlight with it? Do you know how to get out of harm's way and make sure your family's okay? Like it's a process for sure. But like you didn't just wake up one day and go, I'm gonna be a radio host or I'm gonna do this. You have talent. you're a good conversationalist. It took practice to
Yeah,
do
you did.
this
I
every
didn't
day.
just wake up one day and said I'm going to do this, but we're at 212 episodes. So.
I bet you get better at every one. I did as a podcaster. You get more comfortable. Your
Yeah.
transitions get better. Your ability not just to ask questions, but to tell stories. I mean, it all gets better. So yeah, everything comes with practice and precision. But just I want to make sure that I'm prepared because here, okay, I guess I could say it like this week in this topic. I guess I'm a little bit of a worrywart today. And I know that you said a great point. I'm not going to quit living. But now I'm like, do I want to be in that crowded mall? Do I want to be at that music festival because of the media and the 93 deal, the 93 Route 93 or 95 Vegas deal? Do I want to be down there not prepared? I don't know anymore. I just don't know anymore. I don't want to stop living, but I'd rather be out in the country with a grizzly bear than at a music festival in downtown Vegas or Coachella. That's just the way I am now.
Yeah.
And I'm not scared, but I just like, hey, I want to be out in nature. I'm going to be in God's country. Now, do I go to concerts? Yes, sir, I do. But I want to be prepared. I'm watching my six. What's going on around me? I got to be prepared, man.
Yeah, that's a tough way I think that's a tough way to go through life, but I understand it because of who you are and and what you do. Your ability to go from zero to prepared is like that, right? So for you, I think it's easy. For people who aren't, is a lot to wrap your head around and to fight through. And there are probably people who have done it. And so I applaud the people who want to do it for the right reasons, and it's available, which is good. And the people like you, I can tell by this conversation, are the right people to be talking about it, the right people to be to teaching it, and a great role model for someone who wants to get into this for whatever whichever aspect of it that they want to do. So I think it's good to have conversations like this where look, we can get into the whole thing another episode. We'll disagree on a ton of stuff, but we can sit here and agree on a lot of the things that are basic. And that's what's important, to be able to sit down and have a conversation like this and not be yelling at each other and calling people names and still leaving this feeling, pretty good about the other person.
No, I agree 100%. And I think I appreciate your transparency and your ability or your willingness to listen to my side of the story and digest it and reciprocate, and I think that that's very important. And I think podcasting and in today's world of going to lunch and you see a table of 4 or 5 adults and it's lunchtime and they're like, they could care less who's at the table with them. Like, why'd y'all ask to go to lunch together anyway? Just so you might have somebody pick up the tab. No, I mean, it's like, how engaged are we really in life? Like, I just made a bet yesterday. I have a podcast series called This Life Ain't For Everybody. And off of that, we have a sub-series on there called Breaking It Down, where I bring my good friend Alex Crosby in to co-host with me. And our discussion yesterday was how lame social media is and how lame we've made it. So we made a bet. And I could show you. I wish I could show you this. I could text you a screenshot or something. But we made a bet that $100 is going to start. And you cannot touch your phone for the first 60 minutes after you open your eyes during the day. So even I do a lot of business on the East Coast, even though I'm Pacific time. I don't care. They're not going to die without hearing from me. So if you touch it, $10 is added on to the 100, right? So every time, we're doing it for 31 days until August 20th. And I woke up today and 40 minutes into my day, I'd been on my phone for 35 minutes. I had to text Crosby and go, oh my God, I didn't even think about the bet. I was so naturally picked up my phone to get going. And I'm like, add $10 on. Well, he texts me back. He said he was waking up at 6:30. He texts me back at 7:23. I'm like, wait a minute. You haven't been up an hour. He goes, I woke up at 6:21 today. So we're being honest with each other. He waited a full hour. I'm going to give it all I have to open my eyes, put my feet on this dirt, go out and have coffee around my pool or with my daughter or with my dog, and just breathe in the good mountain air around Tahoe here and not jump on this thing. Because I'm always like, who am I living through? What am I really getting out of scrolling down this Instagramming? And we talked about The Rock. I have no desire to know what The Rock ate for dinner last night anymore. I just don't care anymore. Put it on whogivesayouKnowWhat.com because I'm not going to be one of the 3 million people that like Rock's deal. What are those 3 million people really saying if they're hanging on to every one of his words? I hope that they're motivated, they're in the gym, they're staying healthy, they're firm, they're really toned up and they're living like The Rock. But The Rock's got 2 nutritionalists, 3 trainers, all these people he travels with. He's a great motivator. But I've made a decision, like, I'm not going to follow The Rock anymore. I want to motivate myself. I don't need The Rock to motivate me. And I think Instagram, I think social media has gotten to the point to where it's ruined our ability to do what you and I are doing today.
This is my favorite Instagram. It's Chandler holding your favorite album. And it's just literally the same picture with a different album cover. It's got what the heck is it? It's got 300,000 followers.
What are those people wanting to see that for? It's like, oh, that's our content. Now, I like this. I wanted to start a company called Converse. I wanted to start a line of boutique restaurants called Converse, to where you got to check your cell phone at the door like it's a Derek Jeter South Florida party, where every day he may check your cell phone. That's why he was never in any articles or the media in a negative way. I wanted you to check it. If you didn't have anything to talk about, there's going to be a blackboard up there with topics of the day, or give you an idea how to talk. Our waitresses and servers are going to be, schooled in conversation. You're going to converse. You're going to actually go there and talk. Well, we want to put you on our social media. I don't need your social. I want word of mouth. Go out and talk to your friends about how good the food is here, and that you didn't have a cell phone in there, and you didn't get to upload anything to your media, anything. I want people talking again. We don't talk enough. So anyway, I'm simply saying that because I appreciate the conversation, and I appreciate podcasting just for the mere ability to talk with people.
Yeah, it's great. I love doing this because it's a conversation, not an interview. It's a conversation. I'll ask questions, but it goes where it goes. And, we've hit some great topics here. I encourage everyone to check out the Fowl Life TV on all of the social media, even though not after the first hour you're awake. 1 hour and 1 minute.
I'm challenging you and your listening audience. Don't sleep by your phone. Well, I need it for my alarm. No, go get an old school alarm. And if people need to get you, they're going to get you. Because a lot of people back in the day, a lot of people that lived in the 80s still don't do the cell phone thing like we do it, and they're fine. I got people,
cell phone in college, got through.
I got people in their 80s that have clappers, clap on, clap off for the lights, that don't look at their cell phone for hours during the day. They don't even know it's there. Why can't we?
That's awesome.
We're addicted, man. We're addicted.
Yeah, we are addicted. Last question we get everyone out of the Wolff Den with, and you might even have already said it, but you can pick anyone in the world to spend 24 hours with, a full day, do whatever you guys want to do. They have to be alive, and you can't be related to them. Who would you choose, and what would you guys do?
Gosh, man. I've done this with my hero in baseball, George Brett, who's my favorite. He's a dear friend of mine now. So I get to hang with George. But if you'd asked me this 6-7 years ago, I would have said, hey, if I get to choose one person to hang with, and who would it be? They got to be alive. That makes it even tougher.
Yeah.
It's a good question. I'm going to say that it would be this is going to be weird, and you're probably going to call me out on it, but it's going to be Jason Bonham's son, and I'm going to get 24 hours of free drum lessons from him. Well, 23, and I'm going to drink a cold beer and have some sushi with him and talk about his dad and the Zeppelin days. But I really truly want to become a proficient drummer someday.
I think there's organizations that teach you, like they bring people on and then they have like a show.
Masterclass, yeah.
About it. Yeah. That's a great choice. Great choice. So he's on the list. When we get enough influence and money and fame, we'll be able to make all of it happen for all 211 of our guests. We had one who picked Putin, and we're just not going to be able to make that happen. So,
but I love the opportunity to be here, man. Thank you so much. This was awesome.
It was great. Check it out. All of the shows, the new season coming up, and the fowllife.com and the Provider Life. Check out some good rubs. And we look forward to, I'm looking forward to tasting some of your stuff. And next time I'm out that way, I'm going to come by and see what it's all about.
Hey, I would like, if you don't mind, and I don't know if you edit this out, but I'd like to give a huge shout out to Marlon the Winter, who set this up, and Justin. They're an amazing PR firm for us. And if it wasn't for them, I wouldn't get to meet awesome people like you. So if you keep that in there, I'd appreciate it. Thank you, Marlon. Thank you, Justin.
Oh, we don't edit anything. I'm going to send you the full file.
Awesome. Well, thank you for letting me
have a great day.
You too, brother. Thank you.